Let's see what else we can do with functions. Remember that in JavaScript, functions are first-class citizens. That means anything that you do with numbers, strings, objects, booleans, etc., you can do with functions as well. Which means you can have functions that return other functions as its return value. Functions can return functions. Let's see this in action and let's see how it plays out. Now suppose that you have two objects, a rectangle object and a circle object. A rectangle obviously will have a length and a breadth, and a circle will have a radius. At some point in your code, say you encounter an object which can be either a rectangle or a circle. So you're given an object, you're not sure whether it's a rectangle or a circle. We want to find its area anyways. So given an object, some object, either rectangle or circle, but you don't know which. So you are not sure whether that object is a rectangle or a circle. In either case, we want to find its area. We want to find its area even if it's a circle or if it's a rectangle. How do we do this? Remember, the area calculations for a rectangle and a circle are completely different. If you remember your high school formulas, the area calculations for a rectangle will be length into breadth, and for a circle will be pi radius square. You can do this very easily in JavaScript by having a function which checks the object to see whether it's a rectangle or a circle and then returns to you the correct area function. If it's a rectangle, it will return the area function which will calculate the area of a rectangle. If it's a circle, it will return the correct area function which will calculate the area of a circle. Does that sound interesting? Let's see how this works in code. Take a look at the code on the screen. This is a function which takes in an object. So the function is called getArea function. It takes in an object. The variable name for it is shape. It checks whether it's a circle or a rectangle and returns the correct area function on the basis of this check. If it's a circle, it will return the circle area function, and if it's a rectangle, it will return the rectangle area function. It has both the functions defined within it, and it will return one of these functions as its return value. Too much to take in all at once? We'll step through this code line by line, never fear. The first thing is the definition of this function. It's called getArea function and it takes in a shape. Remember that at this point, we don't know whether that shape is a circle or a rectangle. The first thing we do is to define two functions. The first one is a circle area function. This function takes in as an input argument a circle and returns the area of that circle. We create this function and assign it to the circle area function variable. So basically, we are assigning a function to a variable. We are assigning a function which calculates the area of a circle to the circle area function variable. Similarly, we also create a second variable called rectangle area function, which holds a function which takes in a rectangle and finds the area of a rectangle. So the rectangle area function variable holds a function which calculates the area of a rectangle. So we now have two variables set up, circle area function and rectangle area function, calculating the area of a circle and a rectangle respectively. Moving on to the next step. We'll check whether the input argument shape that's passed into the getArea function is an instance of a rectangle. So we use instance of to test whether the variable shape is a rectangle. If you remember how instance of is used, it will return true if the variable is a rectangle, it will return false otherwise. So if shape is an instance of rectangle, we return the correct area function for a rectangle. So if the shape that's passed in is an instance of the rectangle object, we return the rectangle area function. That's the correct area function to use for a rectangle. If the rectangle check failed and the shape that was passed in was not a rectangle, we move on to the next check and we check whether the shape is an instance of a circle. Assume that the circle object constructor exists. We haven't seen the code for it, but you'll find it in the downloadable resources along with this lecture. So we use instance of to test whether shape is an instance of circle. If the result of that is true, if shape is indeed a circle, we return the correct area function, that is the circle area function. If the shape that was passed in is a circle, we'll use the circle area function to calculate its area. Now, if both these tests fail, the shape that's passed in is not an instance of a rectangle, neither is it an instance of circle, then return undefined. In this case, we do not know how to calculate the area of this variable, and undefined is the correct thing to return. It basically says, I have no area function to apply to this shape. It's not a circle, neither is it a rectangle. So now you see, given an object, when you don't know what type it is, rectangle or circle, how you can create a function which returns the correct function to calculate the shape's area. It was easy, given that functions are first-class citizens in JavaScript. Now that we've understood the getArea function completely, using it is very straightforward. Take a look at the code on screen. We first create a rectangle and a circle, and we pass these in to the getArea function and get the correct area function to calculate the areas of the rectangle and the circle. And then we simply invoke the correct methods to calculate the area. This is now very easy to use. The interesting part of the code is the getArea function call. It returns area function 1, which will be the correct area function to calculate the area of a rectangle, and area function 2, which will be the correct area function to calculate the area of the circle. It's easy to use and it does the right thing. So if you run the code, you'll get something like this. You'll get statements which says rectangle was passed in, circle was passed in, and the area of the circle and the area of the rectangle will be calculated correctly.